Now, according to reports, the developments in Venezuela will not have an immediate bearing on India's oil supplies or prices, but may open the doors to diversified sources in case the US can assert its supremacy in the South American country. Venezuela is said to have the world's largest oil reserves at around 17%, but output is low. It was the 20th largest producer of crude last year. Low investments have seen its production slip from the peak of around 2 million barrels a day to around a million barrels, which was around 1% of global output. Additionally, United States-led sanctions on Venezuela have meant that oil flowing into the global markets, including India, has come down. Experts agree that for India, the Venezuelan disturbance is unlikely to have any material economic or energy impact. This comes as although India was a major buyer of Venezuelan crude in the 2000s and 2010s, and Indian firms such as ONGC Videsh held upstream stakes in the Orinoco Belt, bilateral engagement has weakened sharply since 2019 due to American sanctions. Dr. Sharath Kohli, who is a senior economist, joins us for more on this. Good morning, Dr. Kohli. Obviously, we're now learning that this capture of Maduro is per se not going to have an immediate bearing on India's oil supplies. But would you agree with this assessment? Additionally, if the United States were also to reverse these sanctions, what could be the situation of the global oil market? Would we see an increase in output, some sort of stability in prices?
Well, good morning, Medha. Good morning to the Newsx viewers as well. I think, as you rightly said, Venezuela may be holding the largest quantum of reserves as far as the crude oil is concerned. But in terms of the output, the supply, it's barely 1% of the global share. And as far as India is concerned, prior to 2019, when sanctions were imposed on Venezuela, India was importing about 5 to 11% of its total crude from that country. But then after the sanctions, I think the Indian supply from Venezuela came down to barely 0.2 to 0.3%. I mean, if I put it down on US dollar terms, probably about $250 million, and that's it. So that's a very, very small proportion of India's total oil imports. Well, even if the sanctions are lifted, well, US will be happy because US, if you see the Reuters statement today that President Trump is planning to increase the tariffs on India if India doesn't cut down on Russian oil, although he keeps saying Prime Minister Modi is a very good person and so on and so forth. So I think US would be happy if India increases its dependence on Venezuelan imports, because that would mean a similar reduction from the Russian imports. So if the sanctions do come up, well, US will obviously look forward to exporting more oil to India from Venezuela, because so far the statements coming from the US say that US wants to control Venezuela. And even after control, it wants to have its own crony there as the president of Venezuela. So therefore, I think as far as Indian imports are concerned, I really don't see any major impact in terms of logistics or in terms of price or in terms of the total quantum, Medha.
So, sir, in your assessment, even if India were to quickly resume the imports of Venezuelan oil, it would have no such bearing on the Indian market?
No, because, we have already cut down on the Russian oil imports. And if we increase imports from Venezuela, probably some of the logistic costs may go up, because Venezuela is in Latin America, which is quite far from India, the distance-wise, so some logistic cost increment, but no major impact, Medha. And how much India, increases imports from Venezuela, that will also be a very, very key factor. As I said, right now it's just 0.2 to 0.3%, $250 million of US dollar import is minuscule. So it all depends on how much India, expands in terms of imports from Venezuela. But whatever be the case, I mean, the oil cannot be imported at a price which is higher than the international crude oil prices. So I really don't think it will have an impact on Indian import bill, because at the end of the day, we only need as much as we need. We're going to import as much as we need, and we might substitute Russian imports with Venezuelan imports, as the US has been pressurizing. But I think that it's all speculative right now. We need to wait and see as to how things pan out in Venezuela, because right now things are very sensitive. China has very categorically said that Maduro should be released. So we need to see as to what happens in the next few days. Well, as of now, we can only make speculations, Medha.
Dr. Sharat Kohli, thank you so much for your insights. We really appreciate it. Shifting focus now, US President Donald Trump